What if I told you that the reason he pulls away isn't because he doesn't care, but because something deep inside him doesn't feel safe? There's a moment you probably know all too well, a moment that doesn't make sense to your mind, but your heart aches for the answer. Things were going well. The connection felt real. You laughed together, stayed up late, opened up, shared pieces of yourselves that rarely see the light of day. And then, like a slow fade behind fogged glass, he became distant, colder, confused, or maybe just gone. You ask yourself, did I do something wrong? You retrace every step like a detective, every message, every night spent together, every touch. And still, nothing adds up. But what if it's not about something you did wrong? What if it's about something you did right so right that it terrified him? This video is for the women who feel like they've given everything and still weren't enough. For the men silently breaking under the weight of their own walls. And for anyone who's ever watched love slip away not because it wasn't real, but because it was too real. We're going to unravel something raw and deeply human, what happens inside a man when he finally feels safe. Not just safe to smile, but safe to cry, safe to be flawed, safe to be seen. Because when he feels that safety, he will do something you might not expect. It won't look like a fairy tale. It will look like a storm, but it will be the most honest thing he's ever shown you. So stay close, and if this feels like it's speaking directly to you, that's because it is. You are not alone in the ache. You're not crazy for feeling too much. You're just finally seeing the truth of what happens when love brushes against old wounds. If this is the kind of truth your heart has been searching for, go ahead and subscribe to this channel. Like the video. Share it with someone who needs to hear what you've needed to hear for years. Not because you're supposed to, but because you want to. Because it matters. Let's begin. There is something no one tells you about men, not because it's a secret, but because most people don't even see it. You see the strong, silent type, the charming and confident one, the one who knows what to say until the moment he doesn't. But underneath all that, behind the laugh, behind the nonchalance, behind the ambition, is a boy, and he's terrified. Terrified of being truly seen. Not the version of him that looks good on paper, not the one who gets things done, not even the one who makes you laugh in the dark, but the real him. The him who once cried when his father didn't show up. The him who was told to man up before he even knew what that meant. The him who learned, slowly and painfully, that softness could be used against him. So when you come along with your warmth, your depth, your ability to sit with pain instead of rushing through it, something in him starts to stir. Something starts to crack. He doesn't know it yet, but it's happening. You tell him it's okay to talk, and he nods. You let him feel heard, and he listens. You don't judge him when he admits the things he's never said out loud. And for the first time in a long time, he feels safe. But here's the part that no one prepares you for. That safety doesn't always feel good at first. It feels foreign. It feels vulnerable. It feels like standing in the middle of a field during a thunderstorm with no armor left. When a man begins to feel emotionally safe, he will often retreat. Not because you've done anything wrong, but because his nervous system doesn't know what to do with peace. He's been living in emotional survival mode for so long that calm feels like a setup, like the calm before betrayal, like the softness before the slap. So he pulls away, and you, not knowing this storm inside him, take it personally. You try harder. You become softer, sweeter, or maybe more anxious, more confused. You feel like you're chasing a version of him that existed just yesterday. And you're right. That version was real. But he's in the middle of deciding whether he can survive being loved without losing control. Because when a man starts to feel truly safe, something deeper begins to unravel, something old and buried. It's not your fault. It's not even his fault. It's his nervous system, remembering the times he let his guard down and paid the price. It could have been a parent who never apologized, a teacher who humiliated him, a first love who used his softness as leverage. And now, here he is, sitting across from you, feeling that same safety rise again, and every part of him wants to run. You might think he's rejecting you, but what he's really doing is testing the safety. Not on purpose, not to manipulate, but to protect the most wounded part of himself. He'll do things that seem out of character. He might become colder, or more critical, or strangely quiet. And if you're not careful, you'll take that as a sign to shut down. But underneath that shutdown is something else entirely. A test. Not one you're supposed to pass with perfection, but one that asks you to stay grounded in your truth even when he's lost in his. Because if he truly feels safe with you, he'll do this. He'll break. Not all at once. Not dramatically, but quietly. Like when a dam begins to leak, he'll say things like, "I don't know what's wrong with me," or "I'm scared I'll mess this up." He'll talk in circles. He'll try to explain things that don't make sense to him either. But pay attention, because that's the moment. That's the moment he's choosing between his past and his future, between old wounds and new beginnings, between walls and warmth. This is where most love stories end, but they don't have to. Most people never make it past this point, not because the love wasn't real, but because the pain became louder than the possibility. You might be sitting on the edge of his bed, hearing him say things that don't match what you felt last night. You might be looking into eyes that once held you like a prayer, now distant, now unsure. And you ask yourself, how could something so right start to feel so wrong? But that's the thing. Safety doesn't arrive with certainty. It doesn't knock politely at the door of someone who spent his whole life guarding it with alarms. When he starts to feel safe, truly safe, everything he's buried will try to come up. Not just the things he tells you over dinner, not just the stories he's crafted with clean edges, but the raw, messy things. The shame, the self-doubt, the guilt he carries for wanting to be soft while still trying to be strong. He might push you away not because he doesn't want you, but because he wants you so much, it terrifies him. He might question everything because for once, someone isn't trying to fix him, but love him where he's broken. And that is foreign territory. You see, he's been trained to perform, to achieve, to win. But love doesn't work like that. Love doesn't keep score. Love doesn't require proof. Love waits. Love listens. Love sees. And being seen is the most terrifying thing of all for someone who's only been valued for what he can provide, not who he is when he falls apart. You'll know he feels safe with you when he starts showing you the parts he's hidden from himself, the doubts, the failures, the moments he feels like a little boy wearing a man's clothes, pretending to have it all together. He'll show you not through grand gestures, but through tiny cracks. He'll forget to respond, not to play games, but because his mind is spinning with thoughts he's never had the courage to say out loud. He'll cancel plans not because you don't matter, but because he's afraid of letting you down. He'll freeze in moments where you offer love because he's still learning how to receive it. If you listen closely, you'll hear it beneath the silence. The war he's fighting between the man he wants to be and the boy who never felt enough. And this is where many people get it wrong. They think love is supposed to be easy, that if someone pulls away, it means they don't care. But sometimes, pulling away is a desperate attempt to hold on. Because if he messes this up, if he lets you all the way in, if he lets himself need you and then loses you, it'll hurt worse than never letting you close at all. But if he feels safe, and I mean deeply safe, he'll come back. He'll return not because you chased him, not because you convinced him, but because something in him will know that this kind of connection doesn't scream. It whispers. It's not loud and dramatic. It's quiet, grounded, honest. He'll return because safety, real safety, always pulls us back home. And when he does, he might not have all the right words. He might still be scared, but he'll show up, even awkwardly, even slowly, even with trembling hands. That's how you know it's real. That's how you know he's choosing not just you, but himself. He'll apologize in a way he's never done before. Not just with words, but with presence. He'll remember your favorite tea. He'll ask how your heart has been, He'll try to make sense of the mess he left in his wake. And if you still feel whole within yourself, you'll be able to see him without rescuing him. You'll be able to hold space without holding the weight, because you are not his healer. You are his mirror. And the most powerful thing a mirror can do is stay clear. There's a sacred kind of silence that happens between two people when one is finally brave enough to fall apart and the other is strong enough not to run. He might sit beside you, eyes lowered, words stumbling. He's not used to this, not used to being wrong and still being wanted, not used to being a mess and still being met with warmth. Everything in him is waiting for the catch for the moment you say, "That's too much," or "I can't do this." He's preparing for rejection, even as he reaches for connection. Because here's what no one teaches boys when they become men: that being emotionally safe doesn't mean being perfect, it means being real. And that's terrifying, because realness was never rewarded. Realness was punished, or mocked, or used as a weakness. So he carries this armor made of sarcasm, distance, indifference. He wears it like a second skin. But when he begins to feel safe, he lets you see underneath. Not all at once, and not without fear. But slowly, moment by moment, he lowers the shield. He lets you hear the crack in his voice when he talks about his father. He lets you see the guilt he still holds from a past relationship, the one where he shut down and didn't know why. He tells you he doesn't always know how to love, not because he doesn't feel deeply, but because no one ever showed him how to stay. And you, without fixing, without flinching, you listen, not with the kind of listening that waits to respond, but with the kind that holds space. The kind that says, "You don't have to impress me. I just want to know you." That kind of listening is rare, and when a man feels it, something begins to shift. He stops performing. He stops posturing. He stops trying to be the version of himself that earns love, and instead dares to be the version that simply receives it. And it's in that receiving, awkward, hesitant, unsure, that healing begins, not just for him, but for you too, because maybe you've been the one who overfunctioned in every relationship, the one who tried to be perfect, peaceful, easy to love. Maybe you were taught that love meant bending, shrinking, giving without end. And now, here you are, holding space for someone else's unlearning while slowly unlearning your own. It's not easy, but it's real. And real is what we came here for, isn't it? Not the curated version of intimacy, not the fairy tale that ends when the real story begins, but the raw, tangled, breathtaking truth of two people learning how to stay. And when he feels safe, when he truly feels it, not just from your words, but your energy, he'll begin to reflect that safety back to you. He'll ask about your wounds, and not just the polished ones, the real ones. He'll remember things you said in passing, not because he had to, but because he finally can. His mind, no longer caught in defense, is open. His heart, no longer under siege, is softening. He'll stop needing to win every disagreement and start wanting to understand. He'll sit in the discomfort of hard conversations, not perfectly, but willingly. And you'll see it in his eyes that he's no longer trying to escape. He's choosing to stay. He's choosing you. But more importantly, he's choosing himself. He won't say it with grand speeches. He might not even say it at all. Not right away. But you'll feel it. In the way he slows down when you speak, instead of rushing to solve. In the way he lingers in your presence, no longer darting his attention toward distractions to escape intimacy. In the way he breathes differently, less guarded, more open, as if his body has finally given itself permission to rest. You'll start to notice the tiniest of things, the pause before he replies, as if measuring the weight of his own honesty, the way he reaches for your hand without needing a reason, the half smile when you catch him looking at you like maybe, just maybe, he's found something sacred in your eyes. He's not the same man who first stood in front of you, all edges and confidence. No, he's softer now, and stronger for it. Because when a man feels truly safe, he stops needing to control the narrative. He lets it unfold. He allows room for mystery, for mistakes, for growth. And in this surrender, he becomes more himself than ever before. But this is not the part they show in movies. It's not dramatic or loud. It's tender, subtle. It's the way he begins to say, "I don't know," without shame. The way he asks, "What do you need from me?" and actually listens. The way he stops avoiding the past not to dwell there, but to make peace with it. He'll remember the woman who stood with him when he couldn't stand with himself, and he won't forget how she didn't try to fix him, how she stayed rooted in her own self-worth while giving him space to find his. That memory lives inside him. It teaches him that love isn't about rescuing, it's about revealing, and he'll begin to give that back. He'll meet you where you are, not where he wishes you were. He'll stop needing to be the protector of his image and instead become the guardian of the bond between you. He'll say, "I'm here, not just with presence, but with choice." And when life gets hard, and it will, he won't disappear into silence. He won't ghost the moment. He'll stay, not because he's unafraid, but because safety taught him how to walk through fear, because you taught him that being loved doesn't mean being perfect, and he'll offer you the same gift in return. You'll mess up. He will too, but instead of spiraling into distance, you'll talk, you'll pause, you'll breathe, you'll ask, "What's really going on?" And the answers will come not always clean, not always fast, but always real. This is what love looks like when it's rooted in safety. Not fireworks, not chows, not adrenaline, but peace. The kind of peace that holds two people as they evolve, not into perfect versions of themselves, but into truer ones. And the most beautiful part, you'll both start to realize that the thing you were most afraid of being seen was the thing you needed all along. That in the quiet moments, when the masks are gone and the heart is bare, you were never too much. You were never not enough. You were simply waiting for someone who could sit in the silence with you and not flinch. Someone who, when they finally felt safe, didn't run, but stayed. There's a moment quiet, almost imperceptible, when he looks at you differently. Not with desire, not with admiration, but with recognition. As if, for the first time, he's seeing the person who stayed when he couldn't love himself. The one who didn't abandon him when he got quiet. The one who didn't try to fill the silence with solutions. The one who let the silence speak. He'll remember the nights he disappeared into his thoughts. The days he couldn't explain what he was feeling. The times he hurt you with absence more than words. And he'll feel it not as guilt, but as gravity. As a sacred weight. As something worth honoring. Because that's the thing about real safety. It humbles you. It softens the ego. It silences the pride. It makes space for accountability, not as punishment, but as a gift. He'll say things like, "I see what you meant now," or "I didn't understand before, but I'm beginning to." He won't need to be right anymore. He'll want to be real. And that shift, subtle, seismic, is how you know he's returned not just to you, but to himself. He'll start showing up in the places he once avoided. The conversations that once made him flinch, he'll now enter gently. Not because he's figured it all out, but because he's no longer afraid of what he'll find there. And that's the paradox of safety. It doesn't make people perfect. It makes them honest. He'll tell you the truth, even when it shakes. He'll admit when he's scared, instead of hiding behind anger or silence. He'll love you out loud, not with grand declarations, but with consistency, with presence, with effort. He'll start planning around you not to trap you, but to make space for you in his life. He'll ask about your dreams, not just your day. He'll listen to your worries without trying to fix them. He'll hold you when your strong front crumbles, and he won't try to make it tidy. He'll just stay. You'll notice how his voice lowers when he speaks to you, not out of shame, but out of reverence. How he begins to respect your softness, not as weakness, but as the very thing that brought him back to life. He'll show you his gratitude in small things. He'll warm your coffee. He'll send the song that reminded him of you. He'll sit beside you on hard days, without needing to talk. Because now he understands. Love doesn't always need words. Sometimes, love is just being there, breathing in the same silence that once scared him, and finding comfort in it. You won't always get it right. Neither will he. But the difference now is this. He knows the cost of running from real love, and he's not willing to pay it anymore. Because once a man feels truly safe, he will do this, he will stay, even when it's hard. He will open, even when it's uncomfortable. He will rise, not for applause, but because he finally believes he's worthy of being seen and still loved. Not fixed, not tested, loved. There's a beauty in watching someone come back to life, not because you saved them, but because they finally felt safe enough to save themselves. He'll begin to speak of things he once buried, not to bleed on you, but to release them, to breathe without carrying the weight of silence, to exist without editing his truth. He'll tell you about the version of himself he never showed the world, the one who always tried to be enough by doing more, working harder, loving less, because needing people once hurt him. And now, needing you feels like both a risk and a return. He'll sit with you and for the first time not fill the space with performance. He won't charm his way through discomfort. He'll sit in it. He won't run from conflict. He'll lean in. Not to win, but to understand. Not to defend, but to stay. This is the mark of safety in a man, not his ease in the light, but his willingness to stay when shadows fall, to hold you when you're messy, and to trust that he won't lose himself by being soft. Because softness, true softness, is strength. It takes more courage to cry in front of someone you love than to pretend you don't feel anything at all. He might hold your face one morning, long after the fear has faded, and whisper, "Thank you," not just for staying, but for not making his healing your responsibility. For seeing him without needing to shape him, for loving him even when he couldn't love himself the way he wanted to love you. And your eyes might fill, because you'll realize that this is the kind of love you are always worthy of, the kind that doesn't require shrinking or stretching, the kind that doesn't ask you to carry someone's wounds as proof of devotion, but the kind that grows together through time, through rupture, through repair. He'll begin to love you with clarity, not with confusion or apologies or half-truths, but with grounded, rooted presence. He'll know what he wants, not because he's trying to keep you, but because he's finally keeping himself. He won't play games. He won't disappear when things get serious. He won't make you question your value or wonder if you're too much. Because when a man feels safe with you, he stops testing your love and starts returning it. In the only way that matters, consistently. He'll be the one who calls after an argument, not just to fix it, but to say, "I don't want this to become a pattern." He'll ask about your triggers. He'll ask about your needs. He'll say things like, "Teach me how to love you better," and mean it. He'll grow, not perfectly, but intentionally. And you'll notice something else too. He'll start creating safety around you too. You'll feel how his presence settles your nervous system, how his steadiness meets your fire, how he doesn't fear your complexity, but respects it. You'll feel safe because he does. Because the thing about safety is this: it doesn't just live in one person, it ripples. It creates a sanctuary between two people, a place where neither of you has to be anyone else, a place where healing isn't a burden, it's a shared, sacred unfolding. A place where love stops hurting and starts holding. And in that space, you both finally rest. There's something profoundly quiet about real love. It doesn't arrive with fanfare. It doesn't need to prove itself. It just settles in like the first breath after a long-held silence. You'll be lying beside him one night, your bodies curved into each other like a question finally answered. And you'll realize it's not the grand moments that change us. It's the softness, the steady, the knowing that if you speak your truth, he'll lean closer, not pull away. He'll whisper things like, "I didn't know love could feel like this." Not because it's perfect, not because it's easy, but because it's honest. And after everything, after the wounds, the distance, the walls, honesty feels like grace. He'll start showing up in the small ways, the texts that say, "I'm thinking about you." The hand on your back when you're anxious, no words, just presence. The way he begins to remember what makes you feel safe too. He's learning, not because he has to, but because he wants to. Because love isn't just what you feel, it's what you practice. And now, he practices it with you. This man who once shut down when things got hard now asks, "Can we talk about it?" This man who used to run now says, "I'm not going anywhere." This man who once feared being seen now stands in front of you with open eyes and an open heart. You won't need to wonder where you stand. You won't feel the ache of chasing clarity, because he'll give it to you freely, not to control you, but to cherish you. And in his grounded presence, you'll finally be able to soften too. You'll stop feeling like love is something you have to earn. You'll stop walking on eggshells, trying not to be too much. You'll speak your fears, your dreams, your needs, and he'll hold them, not as burdens, but as blueprints. He'll want to know the map of your heart, not so he can navigate it perfectly, but so he can walk beside you, even when you're lost in it. That's what safety does. It doesn't make you fearless. It makes fear bearable. It doesn't erase wounds. It offers a place to rest while they heal. And sometimes you'll look at him not in awe, but in peace and think, "This is what I prayed for when I didn't even know what to pray." He'll laugh more now, softer, freer, like someone who finally laid down the armor. He might still have his moments. He might still pull back, now and then. But you'll see how quickly he returns, how deeply he wants to return. Because safety taught him that being vulnerable isn't weakness. It's the door to everything he ever wanted. And he'll walk through that door every day, even with shaking hands. He'll choose you, not as a fantasy, but as a reality. Messy, human, beautiful. You'll stop needing to prove your worth. He'll stop needing to protect his pain. And together, you'll build something no one ever taught you how to build. A love that doesn't abandon when things get real. A love that doesn't punish you for being whole. A love that grows not from desperation, but from devotion. This is what happens when he feels safe with you, and then one day, without even realizing it, you'll notice the silence between you has changed. It's no longer filled with fear or assumptions. It's filled with breath, softness, trust. You'll be cooking together, or brushing your teeth side by side, or just driving in silence, and it will hit you. This is the feeling people search their whole lives for but rarely find. Not the butterflies, not the high, but the grounding, the calm knowing that someone sees your whole self and stays. He'll look at you differently now, not with the eyes of someone searching for flaws, but someone memorizing home. Because you are that to him now. Not just a person, not just a partner, but a place. A place where he can set down his shame. A place where his silence isn't misunderstood and your softness isn't taken for granted. You might catch him watching you while you talk to someone else, and in his eyes, you'll see a quiet reverence, like he knows how rare you are, how much it took for you to love him this way, how much of yourself you chose to keep intact instead of losing yourself in fixing him, because that's the thing he'll never forget. You didn't save him, you saw him, you didn't force him to grow. You gave him the space to choose it. You loved him at his stillness, not just his progress, and that more than anything is what changed him. So he'll start giving back the only way he knows how, by being solid, by being soft where it counts, by becoming a man who shows up not just when it's convenient, but especially when it's not. He'll hold your hand during your tears, not try to stop them. He'll celebrate your wins like they're his own, without competition, without fear. He'll become a witness to your becoming just as you were to his. And that truly is what real love is. Not two perfect people meeting at the perfect time, but two real people choosing to meet again and again, even when the past tries to pull them back. He'll tell his friends about you, not just your name, but your essence. He'll speak of your strength, your honesty, your laugh. And when they ask what changed him, he might say something like, "She never asked me to be someone else, but she never shrank to keep me comfortable either." And you'll know you didn't lose yourself to earn his love. You kept yourself, and he met you there. Not as a man who needed fixing, but as a man who learned to heal. And now, the love between you won't feel like survival. It won't feel like a cycle. It'll feel like peace. Earned peace. The kind that lasts. The kind that no longer feels like waiting to be hurt, but learning to be held. And every time he reaches for your hand, every time he shows up instead of shutting down, every time he says, "I hear you," without needing to be right, you'll know. This is what happens when a man finally feels safe. And he doesn't run, he stays.